OT, baby, outnumbered overtime. And Geraldo, I'm so sorry. I thought I made it very clear. Our live version of Outnumbered on Fox News was coming to an end, and you were making your last thought.
I was about to make the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah.
And then you told me I have 7 seconds.
Yeah, five, actually.
5, all right.
But continue.
No, I think that for all his missteps, because there is an inherent power in the Republican agenda, I would like him to start saying, I built this, I built that, I built that, and show the Hotel Commodore, which was a slum on 42nd Street, his first big job, 26 years old, the year I met him. He took the Hotel Commodore and he made it the Grand Hyatt. It totally changed all of Midtown Manhattan. I mean, it really had a very, very expansive effect. I would have him on Route 1 in New Jersey, showing the potholes or the decayed bridges with the rust and and saying I'm gonna privatize some of these and make them toll roads because that's the Republican way or the Libertarian way, and I'm gonna borrow this free money and I'm gonna put people to work, and I have a plan, and this is here it is, and it's right on paper, and here's how the budget works out. This is no BS. Nobody can build like me. I'm gonna get America going again and stop all this crazy stuff about.
But wouldn't you appreciate a plan for anything? For example, I care about national security, foreign policy the most, and something that really gets my goat is that people vote national-wide. There's numbers that show people trust him more to fight ISIS than Hillary Clinton. She's got a plan. What I always say
is it a satisfying plan for you, though?
Well, but here's that's the next question. Yeah. The first question is you can log on to www.hillaryclinton.com, whatever her website is, and read her plan.
Yeah, it's very
and then
specific.
You, as the voter, can make a determination about whether it's a good plan or not. He doesn't provide that, and to me as a voter it's very insulting, and he dismisses it with, well, I'm not going to provide you information that's going to feed the enemy. We're not asking you for a battle plan, we're asking you for a strategy. How are you going to approach this, the preeminent challenge of our time?
To your point, which I think is one of the most important things that civilians can do, is show that they have a strategy, because I think it's incredibly dangerous when you have someone like Hillary Clinton, who's a warmonger. She's a total war hawk who will send thousands or millions of people to an early grave because she's a horrible strategist. She doesn't know what she's doing, and she doesn't appreciate human life.
I agree with what Geraldo said about we have to get back to his original message. And I know everybody always harps on the ice skating rink, but that's something that means a lot to New Yorkers, because we have seen so much waste, fraud, and abuse with government, and they just destroy everything they had. And here they had this golden property, and they're however many millions over budget, and it's never getting done. It reminds all of us of the Second Avenue subway. I mean, there's just everywhere. It's always emblematic of what's wrong with government. And he stepped into a project and made it phenomenal, and it was easy, and he did it under budget, and
Ferry Point and the west side of Manhattan.
And so it's just emblematic of how he could cut through the nonsense and get stuff done, and why he doesn't talk about that, why he doesn't focus on that.
What about Atlantic City?
Because I agree with you. I love Trump Rink. I take my girls there, at least once a week in the winter, and they love it. And it's one of those usable parts of Manhattan that show why this is such a great city. And his name is all over the place. His buildings are all over the place. A lot of people live in them, especially just off Riverside on the west side. So why aren't more New Yorkers getting on board with him?
Well, what about Atlantic City? I've not even been there, so I'm only speaking of TV footage and photos here, but it looks like tremendous failures there, tremendous waste.
I mean, I guess you could say he wasn't the only one who failed in it.
Right,
but the thing is, as he says, he got his money out.
Okay.
He got his money out and then used bankruptcy to protect. I think that
what about the thousands of employees?
That's a very legitimate question. People have to. But here's I just want to give you a scenario, a scene. I'm going to set a scene. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu. Here's Mahmoud Abbas of Fatah, the Palestinian leader, and there's Donald Trump in a room. Donald Trump has said he is not one-sided about the Middle East. He's not one-sided about Israel. I could see Donald Trump in my mind's eye negotiating the way he negotiated to get the most over-organized neighborhood on earth, the west side of New York, got them finally to agree to replace derelict piers with beautiful housing. I could see Donald Trump saying to Bibi and to Mahmoud, come on, I'll give it, you take him up to Bethlehem Street. Okay, you're going to get the east side of Jerusalem Tower, and you get the Jaffa Gate, and listen, you got to do this, otherwise, and I'm going to put American money and troops there, and I'm going to help you, and that wall's really, I could see him breaking a logjam with the skills he has as a negotiator, and that's the Donald Trump that I envisioned, not this crazy, loon going off on you Second Amendment people, do your thing.
But like you said, he needs to come forward and do that himself.
I agree.
He's got to make that argument.
And and these sloppy. If you're telling a joke, it's got to be a good joke. It's got to have a structure, a point, understandable, and a punchline, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And you've got to test it.
And it should be funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if he were funny, it'd be a lot easier to say, oh, well, he was just screwing around.
Right.
Like, come on.
He's
it's
not
like,
funny.
what, the guy can't have a sense of humor?
And then,
but the problem is when he says these things, there's not enough differentiation, because with the Second Amendment thing, it's not the time to be funny, but it is the time to add the line about the base and rallying and getting out the vote. And he can say that, and it would be easy, and it would clarify.
It's 3 sentences instead of one stupid statement.
Yeah.
Right. And then it would also give conservatives a great punchback, which is, oh, well, liberals just don't get humor. They're not funny. They're too serious and straight-laced.
I don't even think it would have come up if
yeah.
he had framed it right. He could have appealed to that very important voting bloc in a clean way that would have been a net positive. But I have to go back, and I'm gonna. This is like a coup attempt. But I think the Seth Rich thing, the 27-year-old shot to death on July 8th in Washington, D.C., shot in the back. With first an apparent robbery, then the cops say nothing was taken, and WikiLeaks last night saying they were offering $20,000 reward.
Really?
Can I just say something about that?
And this,
no one.
WikiLeaks
Okay,
source.
when the DNC was so they were so hot to shape this narrative toward the Russians,
right?
Because they wanted to make sure that they tied Donald Trump with Russia, and they're also worried that Russia might actually have her deleted emails. That they didn't wait long enough for the story to actually unfold. And what Julian Assange said then was, well, we don't normally work with state actors. Normally, it's whistleblowers who come forward and give us a majority of the information that we have. No one wanted to hear that. No one wanted to believe that someone from within the DNC might look around and see that something is wrong here.
Does anyone know whether or not this kid, Seth Rich, had access to that? Could he have technically done this caper?
I mean, after Edward Snowden, who knows? And he could have been a Bernie supporter. As far as we know, he could have been a Bernie supporter who sees these emails, sees the stuff coming through, and then realizes.
Then who murders them? And do you really murder someone to keep them from releasing more emails? I mean, it's too wacky. It's too crazy.
I mean,
it's been pretty damaging. I mean, look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Bernie Sanders is now campaigning against Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Remember Mena,
in Florida.
Arkansas? There was someone got killed at the airport down in Mena, Arkansas. Remember that from years and years ago? And then the Vince Foster suicide. There was they say it was a murder. And then Whitewater and the stealing the crockery in the White House and all that stuff. I mean, every Clinton scandal that I have seen and investigated has proved to be false, except for Monica Lewinsky and the women thing, that which resulted in his impeachment.
Yeah.
But every one of those conspiracies has proven false, and that's why I'm so disappointed about Republicans wasting time with Benghazi, and you put those parents on time and time again.
The foundation was so clearly paid for play, and that's where the meat always was. The meat was always there.
Always at the foundation. Always there.
The email. I would just say I know I agree to a certain extent with what you're saying. A lot of these attacks have been a waste of time. The email to me is different. Just as somebody
just
who
the fact of the private server.
The fact of the private server is really problematic to me. I've worked in government. I've worked at state NSC with a top secret security clearance with classified email systems. You can't have an organization like the State Department. I was an intern there in 2004 and 5. You can't have an organization where you ask the interns to follow the security protocol, yet the Secretary of State is exempt.
Fair enough.
The organization falls apart. And
if you had done a fraction of what she did with her email server.
I shudder to think what would have happened to me. But as a responsible person, I wasn't even very old. I was in my early 20s.
Well, as a responsible
I wanted
person,
to be. I didn't. I wanted to comply with the policy.
You're a responsible, ethical person. As a responsible, ethical person, don't you think when Doug Band reached out to Huma Abedin for that introduction to the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, don't you think she should have said, I am ethically constrained. I cannot give you that information. My boss has signed documentation position that she's no longer going to be involved with the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, in an ideal world, I'll say absolutely.
But
you're mistaken if you think that kind of favoring
doesn't happen
both sides
all
day,
100 million times a day.
Every lobby.
It's bigger.
It's millennials want a third-party candidate.
Exactly. I mean, it's a bigger issue than just this one set of 44 emails. This is a systemic problem that we need to fix in this
Very
country.
good. Thank you, Sandra. This has been great.
Anyway.
Has Sandra been engaged?
No.
Are you your husband? What are you doing?
Sandra just set up a dinner
I'm
date.
checking all the social media coming in. It was really hard to find the perfect thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So anyway, thank you everybody for logging on and watching, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon.
Perfect.